What I want to do in this video is just go through the handout for lesson 25, lesson 35, and just go through the answers to the questions, because I know there's a lot of material in here. I won't go through the vocabulary on page 1 or the table here, because that's stuff you can do easily in your own time. But I will go through the participle stuff. So there's all the explanation here. Right, you've got all the explanation, and so what I'll just do now is just go through each exercise, and I'll try and explain it a bit as I go, and perhaps what you can do is try the exercises yourself first, or at least any parts that we didn't do together in class, and then watch this video and check your answers. Okay, so the first one is ho doulos, the slave. And literally, it's the slave having freed. So this is an aorist participle, lousas. The slave having freed the horse. Or you could say in English, the slave who freed the horse. Or after he freed the horse. Or when he had freed the horse. Pros edramen. That's the strong aorist of pros treco, to run towards. So ran towards. Ten oikian, the house. And you can see that the pros bit is repeated. It appears as a prefix in the verb prosedramen, and it appears separately here. And that's fine. You don't need to translate it twice into English, even though it appears twice in the Greek. Okay, in the second one here, ara makes the sentence a question. So ara pisteves means, do you, singular, trust? Now, literally what this says is to grapsanti, the one having written. But in better English, we might say the person who wrote. You could also say the man who wrote, because the article to is masculine. The person or man who wrote the letter, ten epistolen. Okay. In the third one, we have ho pais, the boy, or the child. But we know it's masculine because of the article ho. The boy, having heard, akousas means having heard, so having heard, weak aorist participle from akouo, having heard the shouts, boas is the accusative plural from boer, meaning a shout, having heard the shouts, fled efugen towards your, singular, house. Ten sen, that means your, sos se son means your, towards your house. Okay, and again the participle you could translate in various ways. You could say the boy who heard the shouts, or the boy after he had heard the shouts, or when he heard the shouts, right? There's various different ways of translating it. In number 4, tis means who. So tis estin, who is hos strategos, the general. And you can see here the article is repeated. Ho, and then ho again. So what that literally means is the general, the one having done something. So literally the general, the one having drawn up the soldiers. But it would be better English perhaps to say the general who drew up the soldiers. And then that's the object, tous stratiotas, the soldiers. Okay. And then in number 5, ho ten epistolen pempsas. Now here, ho pempsas means the one having sent. So we could say the person who sent, or the man who sent, or the person having sent. And the object is ten epistolen, the letter, is estin, a sumakos, an ally. Okay. Then number 6, thaumasdomen, we admire, or we are amazed at. Ton, now here ton is agreeing with didac santa, the one having taught. So the man or person who taught tous paidas, the boys. Or again, it could be the children. Okay. And then in number 7, doron pareko. So that pareko means I provide, or I am providing. The object is doron, a gift. And you can see here you've got a dative, to, for, the, and it's literally the one having chased. So the man or person who chased ton dulon, the slave. And then in number 8, ho poietes, the poet. And again, you can see the articles repeated. So literally, the poet, the one having done something. So the poet who had, or who persuaded, or who had persuaded the people, ton daemon. Timen eke. Eke means he has, and timen means honor. Okay, and then number 9, hoinautai, the sailors. And then here's our participle, phulaxantes, having guarded the boats, ta ploia, the boats. Duo horas, that means that's an accusative time phrase. Horas is accusative plural, so it means for 2 hours. And then number 10, pisteuomen, we trust. And to trust takes dative, which is why to pausanti those 2 words are dative. So we trust, to pausanti, the one having stopped, the person, man who stopped, ten naumakian, the sea battle. Okay. So that's everything in that exercise. Then we meet all 3 genders of the participle and also the adjective pass. And again, there are some notes there about pass which you can read. Here they are. So let's try the exercise here. So her kore, the girl, and you can see the article is repeated. So the girl, the one having freed, lusasa. Okay, because the verb is luo, the weak aorist is elusa, and therefore the weak aorist participle is lusas in the masculine. So lusas in the masculine, lusasa in the feminine, lusan in the neuter. So the girl, the one having freed, so the girl who freed, pantastus hippus, all the horses. Estin, that means she is. Enter comer, in the village. Okay, number 2 begins tines asin, that means who are. Hoi, now here again you've got the article hoi with the participle peisantes. So the ones having persuaded. So the people or the men who persuaded ton daemon, and that means the people, and they are the object. Okay, and you can see there's a question mark in the Greek there, which we can turn into a Latin alphabet question mark. Okay, and then in number 3, it begins ekomen, which means we have. The fleet, ton nautikon, and then again the article is repeated. So literally the fleet, the one having stopped the war. So we could say in English, the fleet that stopped the war, or the fleet which stopped the war. Okay. Now number 4 here, polakis means often, and didaxas, okay, that means having taught. So literally what this sentence means is having taught, having often taught, I always learn. I manthane. So you might say in English something like, when I have taught often, I always learn, or something like that. Slightly strange sentence, but okay. Number 5, hai ten komen phulaxasai. Okay, so hai is the article, and it's feminine. So the women, and then phulaxasai. Now this is from the verb phulasso, I guard. and it's the aorist participle phulaxas, but this is the feminine plural, phulaxasai. So the women having guarded, or we might say so here it's the ones, but we can tell that it's feminine. So we say the women, it might be the girls, I suppose, the women who guarded the village, 10 co-men, Andrei Asin, are brave. Okay, and then number 6, ara pisteoes. So the ara makes it a question. So do you trust? Ara pisteoes. Panti to mutho. Now this doesn't mean all the stories because it's singular, right? It's dative singular following the verb to trust, because the verb to trust always takes dative. Okay, so this is singular, so it's not all the stories. Okay, and it has the article to, so therefore it means the whole story. Okay, if I took away the article, it would mean do you trust every story? But because you have the article, just like in English, you say the whole story. Okay, in number 7, it starts with Her Thea, the goddess. And then here I think we can just translate it with the participle in English. Akusasa, having heard, that's the feminine of the participle, right? Akusas, masculine, akusasa, feminine, akusan, neuter. Having heard, tas boas, the shouts. She epempsen, that means she sent, weak aorist from pempo, she sent a messenger, angelon. Not the messenger, that would be ton angelon, just a messenger, because there's no definite article. And then in number 8, hoi paides, so the boys, or again could be the children. And then the verb is eis epipton. Now this is the strong aorist from eis pipto, which means I fall into. So fell into panta kindunon. Okay. Now, and panta kindunon, it's not the whole danger, because that would need an article. So it's into every danger. Every danger. Okay, and then in number 9, ti esti. Now this is like tis esti, which would mean who is, but ti is the neuter version, right? When you lose the s, it's a neuter version. So it's not who is, but what is. Okay, so what is to onoma, the name, of, and so now we have a genitive. What is the name of? Tes grapsases, the one having wrote. And in fact, it's feminine. So we could say the woman who wrote, right? Literally, the one having wrote, having written, rather, the one having written, ten biblon, the book. So literally, what is the name of the female one having written the book? But it's much better English to say, of the woman who wrote the book. And then in number 10, hoi, and this is going with the participle, dioxantes, and then tous polemius is the object. So the ones having chased. So you could say the men or people who chased, tous polemius, the enemy, are, that's asin, they are sumakoi, allies. Okay. So that's everything in that exercise. And then at the very end here, we have some English into Greek. Okay, so they have all the gifts. Okay, well, the verb to have is echo. Okay, but it's not I have, it's they have. So ekousi. Or if there's a vowel afterwards, it would be ekousim. So they have the gifts. Now the gifts are, a gift is a doron, to doron, but we want the plural, so ta dora. And then we need panta, agreeing with it, meaning all. And remember, panta is not sandwiched, right? You don't sandwich pas. So you either say ekusi panta tadora, or you say ekusi tadora panta. But what you don't do is sandwich panta. You don't say ta panta dora. You don't sandwich it. You put it before or you put it after. Okay, so that's the first sentence. The second sentence begins with the soldiers, right? A soldier is ho stratiotes, but it's plural, the soldiers. So instead of ho, we have hoi, and instead of stratiotes, we have stratiotai. Okay, after guarding, so that means having guarded, basically. We're going to use the participle having guarded. So we start with the verb fulasso, to guard, right? And then the aorist of that is efulaxa, okay? But to do the participle, you take off that augment. You don't need the augment for the participle. And then you have as, asa, an, right? As for the masculine, asa for the feminine, an for the neuter. So there we go. So fulaxas, but that's the masculine singular. We want the masculine plural. So fulaxantes, having guarded the island. Okay, an island is hemera. Sorry, that's the day rather. Hernesos. There we go. Hernesos, the island. But of course, because it's the object, it needs to be accusative. So ten neson, accusative case. 4 or 5 days. Well, what you do to make a time phrase for a certain amount of time is you make it accusative. So pente is the number 5, and that doesn't change from nominative to accusative. And then a day, that's the word I was thinking of before, is a hemera. But we want this to be plural, because it's days plural, and we also want it to be accusative, because we're saying 4 or 5 days. So it's pente hemeras. For 5 days. Okay. And they were no longer willing. Okay. So no longer is uketi. Right? So u is not, uketi is no longer, not anymore. They were no longer willing, right? So I am willing is ethelo. But we want the aorist. So what you would normally do to an aorist, or to a verb to make it aorist, is add an e on the front. But that will give us ethelo, which isn't very good. So that double e turns into an eta. The double epsilon turns into an eta. And then here, the aorist is ethelesa. Okay, and it's they, plural, so ethelesan, were no longer willing to remain. The verb I remain is meno, and we want the infinitive, which is menein. Okay, so that's the complete sentence. Hoi stratiotai fulaxantes ten neson pente hemeras uketi ethelesan menein. Now, we here have number 3, the woman who had written the letter. Now here we don't need to say the woman, because we can do that with just the feminine article. So we can just say her, the one, the woman. Having written. Okay, so remember, verb is grapho, I write. The aorist is grapsa. And so to make that into a participle, you take away the augment and you add the s. So grapsas is the participle. That's the masculine. To make it the feminine, grapsasa. Like that. Her grapsasa, the woman having written the letter. So the letter is her epistole, but that will be nominative, and the letter is the object. So we need the accusative case, ten epistolen. Okay, so the woman who had written the letter was not, so uk, it could be u, but we're going to have a vowel after this, uk en was not, imperfect tense of Amy, I am, was not in the house. So in is n, And then the house, remember, a house is he oikia, but we need the dative, because en is always followed by the dative. So en te oikia, like that. Okay. So though the woman who had written the letter was not in the house. He grapsasat hen epistolen uk en te oikia. Okay. In number 4, those who have heard the story. Right? And the first bit we can translate with a participle. The ones having heard. Okay, so those would be hoi, plural, the ones. If it's the women, it would be hai, but if it's men or a combination of men and women, then it's hoi. And then we want having heard. So the verb I hear is akuo. And we want the aorist, which you would normally add an e, but again, there's that clash of e and a, so it becomes kusa. Okay, but now the augment has to disappear because it's a participle, so it goes back to an a again. And then you add the s, right? Akusas, that's the participle. But again, that's singular, and we want plural because it's those people, plural. So hoi akusantes, those having heard. The story, ton muthon, right? A story is a muthos. So the nominative would be ho muthos, but we want the accusative, ton muthon, because it's the object. So those who have heard the story. Trust, okay, I trust is pisteo, and we need it to be they trust, third person plural, so pisteusi. And then remember the verb to trust takes dative. So the messenger would be ho angelos, but that needs to be dative. So instead of ho angelos, to angelo. Okay, so that's the whole sentence in number 4. Hoi accusantes ton muthon pisteusi to angelo. And now the last one, number 5. I want to find. Okay, I want. This is using ethelo again. So I want, ethelo, nice and easy, to find. Now the verb to find is heurisko, and of course we want the infinitive form, so heuriskein. So I want to find the man who. Now you could say ton anthropon, ton blah blah blah, but we don't even need to use anthropos. We can just use the article. The man, ton, right? So the man having released. Okay, so we need to use the verb luo, and we put it in the aorist, so elusa. And to form the participle, you take away the augment and you add an s, so lusas. But it needs to be accusative, so ton lusanta. The man having released the horses. Now, a horse is ho hippos, but we need this to be accusative, plural, so tous hippus, like that. So that's one way of doing it. You could also add in here, I'm going to put this in square brackets to show that you can do this, but you don't need it. You could say ton anthropon, the man, and then repeat the article. Yeah? So you could say, I want to find the man, the one having freed the horses. But this bit, anthropon ton, is unnecessary, right? It's correct, but it's not necessary, because ton already does that work. Ton lusanta means the man having released, or the man who has released. So again, you can write that in if you want. I'll remove it from there. Okay, and again, on the last page, okay, this is all vocabulary. Now, actually, I didn't fill in the vocabulary at the beginning because it was stuff we did in class, but actually, I will fill it in here. Again, I would suggest you try it on your own first before you check your answers. Okay, so a stratos is an army. An archon is a leader. Epe means when or since. A neanias is a young man. Pros ago means I lead someone towards something. I lead towards. Athenaios means Athenian. Sos means your, and it's singular. A stratopedon is a camp, in the sense of a military camp or an army camp. Neos means new, or it can also mean young as well. A nautes is a sailor. A boe is a shout. Ek treko is I run out of a place. And you could expect to see ek repeated and then some genitive noun explaining where I ran out of. Pente is the number 5. Okay. Then let's see, deuteros means second, as in the biblical book Deuteronomy, so called because it's the second explanation of all the laws. Emos means my or mine. Didasco means I teach. And by the way, while you're going through these, just make sure that you note to yourself the aorists. Because sometimes the aorist is quite obvious, right? If you saw edidaxa, you could probably recognize that it's from didasco, but some of them are not so easy to recognize. Okay, moros means stupid or foolish. Mikros means small. Men and de basically just implies a contrast, right? So you'd say something, and then you'd say but, and then say something else. So the men is the first half, and the de is the second half. A poietes is a poet. Blapto means I harm or injure or damage, something like that. Pros bino, okay, bino is I go, and pros means towards. So I go towards. And nosos is a disease, and remember not to confuse nosos with nersos. Okay, a nersos is an island, whereas a nosos is a disease. And then nun means now, which is very much like the Latin version, nunc, which means now. And last one, pu means, it's a question word, and it means where. Okay.